Story 1. I knew the files would be permanently altered as soon as Bondi touched them. We will never see them in their original form. Story 2. I'm absolutely appalled. I have lost faith in the government, legal, and justice system completely. This is slowly becoming the biggest cover-up in American history. It is happening before our eyes, and people in positions to take action are delaying. Story 3. He is in all the previously leaked files, and he has hundreds of pictures with Jeffrey Epstein, along with a large amount of other evidence showing he was very close to Epstein and part of his inner circle. I am accustomed to the Department of Justice protecting the politicians who control it. The redactions mean nothing to me except further confirmation of what I already believed. Story 4. Honestly, I will just assume that all redacted names are actually Donald Trump, and it will be even more damning. Story 5. Quite literally, we told you this would happen and you voted for the racist person anyway, so sit and spin. Story 6. America is being run by the most corrupt administration in history. They are robbing citizens and protecting criminals. Historically, this generally ends only one way. Story 7. The next thing we receive from the White House is news that the original unedited files were lost in a tragic fireplace accident. Story 8. It's a joke. America is now no different from North Korea and Russia, a despotic dictator who bows to no one and has no accountability. How quickly America has fallen. I blame the Senate, Congress, and the Supreme Court because those are the checks and balances. Your spineless, selfish, pathetic government cannot do the one job they have, and now look where you are. America is now trash, but at least the president's house will have a $200 million shiny gold ballroom. Story 9. I honestly don't know why he cares at this point. It is clear his base will never abandon him, and the Democrats will never prosecute him. He could harm a child on live stream, and conservatives would cheer and celebrate as long as the child was a migrant. Story 10. You mean the Federal Bureau of Investigation that is run by a man who wrote an illustrated children's book about King Donald? What could possibly be concerning about that? Story 11. The fact that they are openly doing it tells me all I need to know. Donald Trump is guilty and implicated by them. They do not even need to release the evidence for me to know that. I am just hoping for someone to leak the unedited information because I do not trust anything the government will release about it. Story 12. Fully expected this to happen. Donald Trump has been given complete freedom by the entire government, and when you allow a criminal involved in pedophilia to steal an election and provide him with all the loyal followers he needs to do anything, there are no legal consequences for him. He has been placed well above the law, and his political party will go to any length to protect him. They wanted a dictator. Story 13. I'm an elder millennial and can remember when the Federal Bureau of Investigation was regarded by the majority as a neutral crime fighter under Soviet Union sleeper agent paranoia and militia terrorists. This redaction activity seems to be more evidence dismantling that nostalgic image. To me, that old government was clunky but generally well-meaning, including to the rural Midwestern states. Now the 70 million Republican voters replaced it with a spoils of war system. I honestly don't recognize this country as the one that raised me. Now you win an election, you get away with any crime. I'm curious how petty the Democrats will get when they inevitably take the government seats back. As an aside, I am shocked that such a mediocre, vain, insecure man could overachieve this hard. His family was a joke in New York. On his own, he failed every business he got his hands on. Yet he caught the presidency to wash away his crimes and his very obvious failures. Story 14. His public comments about walking into children's dressing rooms at his pageants, about how great it is to grab women, leering at and commenting about a 10-year-old on an escalator, his adjudication as a sexual assaulter, his wishing Maxwell well and standing by that comment when asked, considering pardoning her, sending his personal criminal lawyer to a private meeting with her, his many pictures with Epstein, and his declarations about Epstein being a 15-year friend, a great man who likes young women, the many repeated gross sexual comments and questionable pictures with his daughter, all of these did not lead to any action. So, sure, blackout is named on the list. Story 15. There are no words that describe how utterly ridiculous the levels of protection being applied to the President of the United States and anyone else connected to Epstein are. However, is it not possible that some future sitting president can release the full unredacted Epstein files? While I understand that people cannot be charged with the same crime twice, can pardons be reversed? Story 16 feels like an impeachable offense. The role of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is not to protect politicians from politically inconvenient facts. Also, Donald Trump is a pedophile and Kenneth Vance is an accessory to pedophilia at this point. Story 17. The people who voted for Donald Trump voted for corruption, the end of ethics, the end of democracy, the end of environmental protections that sustain all life on Earth, and the end of the Constitution. Condemn all of them. Story 18. Trump will always be known as the pedophile protector president at best. More likely, his legacy will simply be the pedophile president. Even if Bill Clinton is involved, and that is why Joe Biden did not release the files, this cover-up will define Trump's place in history. The fact that he was told his name was implicated and then suddenly denies it by claiming it is fake news, blames former President Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton's emails, and autopen, Joe Biden, Harvard, or unrelated issues, even his supporters can see through this. Story 19. I think if your President of the United States says he is innocent, then that is it. Accept it and move on. Just kidding. Everyone knows what is going to happen. The dishonest convicted felon involved in sex trafficking will experience the same consequences he always does. He will launch a new cryptocurrency and make billions in profit. Story 21. Everyone knows some of the names there: Trump, Clinton, Dershowitz, and others. They all have one thing in common, and it is not politics. They are rich and powerful. 2. It seems unlikely anyone could be successfully prosecuted without testimony from Maxwell and a victim, and even then it would be uncertain. We have seen what happens with accusations against the rich and powerful. So what are they worried about? It seems the rich and powerful are willing to protect even political opponents from just the taint of being in the files. This shows how much they take care of each other versus everyone else. It is not Republicans versus Democrats. It is the rich against everyone else. Politics just keeps the majority tearing each other down with largely meaningless ideology designed to provoke emotions about things that do not really matter. My 2 cents. Story 21. The government is complicit in the rape and trafficking of children. We should listen to the victims instead of waiting for a list. Story 22. My opinion no longer matters because 1/3 of this country does not care and 1/3 actively support child exploitation. Story 23. I do not think anything should be redacted unless it is to protect the victims, especially the underage ones. Story 24. Who are you asking? Original poster. Normal people who, of course, want justice for the victims of pedophiles, or depraved conservatives who eagerly defend child rapists. Story 25. The Federal Bureau of Investigation redacting Donald Trump's name is like your little brother cleaning by shoving everything under the bed. Story 26. It is not as if no one knew he was involved, yet a plurality of the American people elected him anyway. He was already a convicted rapist when they hired him. Story 27. It is wasting my tax money on busy work. At this point, we know he is there, and it is in the public interest to know the extent of the president's involvement and which laws he has broken. Story 28. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is inherently disloyal to the American citizen and should never be complied with again. Story 29. This is similar to when the Michael Cohen case insisted on calling Donald Trump an unindicted co-conspirator, even though it was clear it referred to him. The files literally stated, with an unindicted co-conspirator, who became President of the United States during his first term. It is also like during the police protests when everyone chanted, "Who are you protecting? Who do they think they are protecting by repeating his name, and who do they think will be fooled by it?" His supporters know the allegations against him, but that has never been a problem for them. Story 30. Anywhere we see black highlighter, it indicates another page documenting him being caught sexually abusing children or selling them to others for abuse. Story 31. Things that everyone knows. 1. Donald Trump is a pedophile. 2. Donald Trump's Federal Bureau of Investigation is going to cover up his crimes. 3. Make America Great Again supporters are okay with all of this. Story 32. Everyone knew he was a pedophile and they voted for him anyway. They will not even care if his name is listed. Story 33. Am I extremely disappointed in a government body for having no backbone? Yes. Am I even remotely surprised? No. Story 34. Just a continuation of illegal cover-up and illegal activity by the most corrupt administration in our nation's history. Story 35. I didn't really have much hope. I am literally waiting for him to shoot someone like he said he would, and people would still support him. I have lost all hope that this clown show will ever be held responsible for anything. I am tired. Story 36. I'm unable to assist with that request. Story 37. Expected. There is no reason to redact anybody from these files if we are taking them as serious evidence of sex crimes and pedophilia. We must assume that all redactions involve people who have the power to make or command such redactions, such as Donald Trump, obviously. Story 38. It is illegally altering evidence, meaning it is obstruction of justice, and he can be charged with this if he did not make himself immune from prosecution. Just like how Bill Clinton was charged and impeached for obstruction of justice after lying about his personal affair with Monica Lewinsky. It is surprising how Donald Trump cannot be impeached for openly altering evidence regarding accusations of sexual assault against minors and lying, but Bill Clinton was impeached for lying about personal affairs. Makes sense. The Republican Party is corrupt. Story 39. I do not know why they bothered. Child sexual abuse does not seem to concern the Republican Party and supporters of the Make America Great Again movement. Story 40. What is the point? The way Donald J. Trump, his Department of Justice, and his press secretary have been acting so suspicious, I am just going to assume every negative mark is either a victim's name or Donald J. Trump. Story 41. They outright admitted that he is in the files, which we already knew because the victims told us. So it is really all wasteful nonsense to protect the king. I can say I have never seen the people of the country with this level of morale. I am only 34, so that is not saying a lot, but it feels more volatile than I have ever experienced. There is more anger in people now than I recall after September 11th. Story 42. Donald Trump is accused of serious crimes, and the Republican Party is accused of being complicit in the cover-up. Make America Great Again voters are also responsible for voting for him into office. No amount of redactions can hide this fact, and anyone who claims that Trump is innocent is revealing their support for wrongdoing. Trump voters and Republicans, now is your chance to reconsider your position. If you do not, you should reflect on the consequences of your support. Others will not forget this. Story 43. It is a massive cover-up. Anyone who opposes the release of the unredacted documents is a pedophile, in my opinion. Story 44. The president could commit a serious crime on Fifth Avenue with the Epstein list, and not a single member of the Republican Party in the country would hesitate to vote for him a fourth time because he lets them say the slurs they want to say. Story 45. We are not shocked. We are just shocked at how one political party does not care and is ready to move on from the Epstein files. Story 46. Systemic power and wealthy interests are inherently self-serving and will spare no expense in pursuing their goals, even at the cost of the system that created their power. Story 47. Unsurprised. The Federal Bureau of Investigation works for the federal government first and foremost, not the people. And who is currently leading the federal government? Story 48. Release the Epstein files in their entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Story 49. Trump having his name removed from the files to prevent himself from being implicated is typical behavior for him. Story 50. He should honestly just come out and tell everyone the truth that he went to the island, including the underage girls. None of his followers will care. In fact, they would cheer him on for standing his ground. It is not like any of them actually care about protecting children anyway. Story 51. There is nothing in those files that everyone does not already know. His supporters do not care at all. In fact, many of them admire him more for having done it. The conservative movement is largely sustained by individuals seeking a place to satisfy their most depraved desires. Story 52. This, plus the Smithsonian removing references to his impeachment, seems like censorship. I am sure the free speech right will criticize him, right? Story 53. I strongly dislike it. This is the exact opposite of a government that maintains accountability to the people and the law. Story 54. Can we redact our names from documents? I redacted my name from my $4,300 periodontal surgery bill. Do you need some correction fluid? Story 55. It is exactly what I expected to happen. You think that a child abuser is going to let the Federal Bureau of Investigation reveal the truth about what he and Epstein were doing? He has no moral compass. He will command those under him to protect him at all costs. Story 56. There were only ever going to be two possible outcomes. 1. Never see the list, or 2. See the list after it is altered. This is typical in a dictatorship, and everyone knows Donald Trump cheats. Story 57. Literally everyone knows. I do not know what people are expecting if the documents get released. He already got off on 34 felonies. I do not think anything will change if it becomes official knowledge. Story 58. We are witnessing a cover-up on a massive scale in real time. 1,000 people is too many to be silenced. I just hope they brought thumb drives. Story 59. There are supposedly a large number of agents working on those files. I wonder what they are doing to keep them all quiet about their activities. Story 60. The modern grand old party has shown us who they are. It is time to move past our shock and horror and push back. Story 61. I would expect nothing less. It is a futile effort because no one in their right mind will believe that he is not involved. There is enough evidence already released where you could reliably identify him in the report, even if his name is redacted. Moreover, it seems the Maxwell family probably has original documents and surely some evidence that has yet to be recovered by law enforcement. Story 62. At this point, redaction is just another indicator of probable guilt. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has become a joke under this administration. Story 63. I do not like the us versus them mentality. If anyone's name is on that list, send that person to jail. I do not care who. Story 64. It tells us that every redaction in the files is a spot where former President Donald Trump is mentioned. We will be able to count the number of times former President Donald Trump is mentioned in the files simply by counting the redactions. Story 65. Angry. Completely angry. If he is not punished for this, the American dream no longer exists and we are all just slaves we do not realize yet. Story 66. It requires a full-scale revolt. But most of us have enough to lose to stay home and just accept it. I hate it. I can't have my children grow up without parents. It is too big of a risk. Story 67. The fact it is redacted does not mean it is not there. The fact they are covering it up is the issue. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is supposed to be enforcing the law. Instead, they are covering for a pedophile. Story 68. At this point, every move made by the Trump administration regarding the Epstein files has practically proven that Trump was on that island and engaged in the activities that occurred there. Trump is a pedophile, and the deep state Make America Great Again government is covering it up for him. Moreover, hundreds, if not thousands, of people are on that list, so they are now covering up an entire pedophile crime ring. This is the kind of moment where, if the American police and military had any honor left, they would be rounding up and removing most of the Republican Party from power right now by force. However, apparently, our police and military are also protectors of the pedophile party over their country. Shame on the police, shame on the military, and the Republican Party as a whole deserves to rot. May the day come when all of these people face what they deserve in full measure. To our military, you are a disgrace for falling in line under the most fascist pedophile president we have ever had. Do not demand my respect because clearly none of you care about our freedom when you allow a political party and their criminal rapist leader to take it all away from us. I have no respect for any of you, no respect for any of our police, and our government, in my opinion, needs to be toppled and rebuilt from the ground up. There is no saving the current American government. It needs to be torn down, and we need to create a new government with a new constitution and rules for those in power that allow no loopholes to exploit. Term limits for every position. No more lifetime appointments. Story 69. Par for the course. Expected, but also hilarious. So he is in the files then, yes. We can agree on that. You just have to guess which black lines are him. Story 70. Here is another question. Why would they spend all that time redacting if Donald Trump was innocent or exonerated by mentions in the files? Story 71. Redacting, my ass. They are altering, destroying, and definitely going to make it look like Donald Trump was a saint in the presence of John Eastman. Just like I don't believe a word out of Donald Trump's mouth. I don't trust a single word that his entire administration puts out. It's disgusting. No job reports, no gross domestic product scores, no unemployment rate. It's all lies. Story 72. The Federal Bureau of Investigation Director was appointed by whom? Donald Trump. The only real requirement was blind loyalty to the same criminal in chief. So what you are asking is, what are your thoughts on Donald Trump telling the Federal Bureau of Investigation to redact his name from the Epstein files? I think it is gross and disgusting that a person gets to run the criminal investigation of themselves. This only happens in a dictatorship. Story 73. So anything that is blacked out and redacted we can assume says Donald Trump trafficked and raped children? Got it. Story 74. It means they are admitting to Donald Trump's name in the files. We can only assume the worst. Donald Trump sexually assaulted many children while he associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Story 75. My thoughts are like many others. We just wish that day would arrive very soon. Story 76. That confirms Donald Trump is in the files, and the notations about him are not complimentary. He was not saving trafficked women. Story 77. It does not change the fact that he is either a pedophile, associated with pedophiles, a friend of a pedophile, or has covered for other pedophiles. Story 78. Every single black Sharpie mark that does not refer to a victim I will now assume is Donald Trump. That will forever be a fact in my head. Story 79. Not surprised at all. A corrupt administration is going to do corrupt things. This is completely typical for them. They are going to manipulate the information to get the names they want publicized, while hiding those they do not want exposed. The more time they take, the more obvious it becomes that anything they eventually release will be manipulated and inaccurate. Story 80. Honestly, the only people who do not think Donald Trump is a child rapist are the Republicans who followed his cult. The majority of them probably deep down know he is, but they have made him their entire personality and cannot back down without looking bad. Now, they are just rallying around someone that everyone knows is a pedophile based on the comments he has openly made repeatedly over the years, including inappropriate sexual comments about his own daughter. Story 81. The same people who are actively trying to erase all of January 6th from history. How unsurprising that this is happening now as well. Story 82. If it is a security risk for Donald's name to be in those files and it is in those files, then he should not be president. Story 83. They need to stop protecting Donald Trump and do the right thing. Many people are in a position to remove him from office. Story 84. Not surprised. Donald Trump is going to fire the head of the agency that publishes the jobs reports because he did not like this month's report. So, that the Federal Bureau of Investigation complies with Donald Trump is not a surprise. America is now a fully fascist country. Story 85. We should then assume every redaction is him and add it to the list of charges for after the revolution. Story 86. Crooked. They are not protecting victims. They are protecting the perpetrators. They do not care as long as power is in the Oval Office. Story 87. I am glad no one is letting it go. To me, it is the same thing as everything else. If you are innocent, you should have nothing to hide. Story 88. He is a con man and a terrible human being. He should never have been eligible to run. Every safeguard has failed, leading us to this point. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.